officer, 1 additional fire medic, an upgrade of our entire emergency dispatch center, replacement of 1 snowplow and wing, that's in our fleet of snowplows, road repaving, funding our police fleet replacement program, and adding an additional squad car as well as improvements within our park department. This budget enables Pleasant Prairie to accommodate the growth of our village and the increasing request for service for what will be a 1% increase in your entire tax bill and a 5.6% increase in the village portion of the levy. All utility budgets are being presented without any rate increases and without any reductions in the levels of service currently provided. The solid waste utility is offering the opportunity for residents to lower monthly bills by up to $1 if they choose to limit the amount of solid waste that's collected at their home. If residents choose to maintain the same level of service they have now, there is no additional charge for this service. Prior to the adoption of this budget, my fellow board members and I look forward to hearing your comments concerning our budget, as well as answering any questions concerning the impact this budget will have on our community. I would like to thank the entire village board for their input in consideration of this very important document that affects the quality of life in our village. And I want to add that this year was especially, we had the morning work sessions on it, and I think the end product is really something we can all be proud of. So with that, I will ask Mike for the presentation of the 2008 budget.
No, send it again.
Okay, up on the overhead right now is the organizational chart for the village, and it highlights the different areas which budgets are being presented for. The first section of my presentation will be on the ones that are shaded like green. Our general government, the main areas, and that is operating, capital, and debt service. And then in the first section also I'll be going over the tax incremental districts, debt service, and capital improvements of the debt to incremental districts. And then we also have 3 special revenue funds also. And in the second part of my presentation, I'll be going over the public utilities, which includes the water utility, the sewer utility, the clean water utility, and the solid waste. In December, January, we're looking at the Recplex, like the Recplex is a separate budget. So my first part of my presentation is on general government operating. This is a summary of the general government operating. It compares the 2007 budget to what we're proposing for 2008 and gives the changes in dollars as well as percents. The top section shows the revenues, and the middle section shows our expenditures grouped by categories, and then it gives you our net gain or loss. Last year we used some of our fund balance. This year we're proposing not to use any of our fund balance. We actually balance the budget without fund balance. Property tax here shows 18% increase, but that's due to how it's allocated. There's more property taxes being allocated to operating and less to our capital. Therefore, it shows a bigger percentage increase in this area. But overall, taxes are not going up 18%. It's more like the 5% percent amount. Other revenues include intergovernmental, licenses and permits, other taxes, public charge for services are included in that category. You can see that's only going up a minimum 1%. New program-wise, in this revenue area, we're looking at increasing some building permits, some electrical license, and also some planning and zoning application fees for a total increase of over $48,000 in new program revenues. So overall, you can see our revenues are increasing to 8%. To cover expenses, public safety, which includes our police, our fire and rescue, inspection, and our public safety communication area. I'll go into more detail in a couple slides down in terms of what causes the increase or decrease in certain areas. Public works is our second category. Public works includes public works, engineering, street lighting. Government includes our village board, administration, assessing, finance, IT, and HR. And then we have community development, which is just community development, and then parks, which is just parks. New program-wise, we're looking at, as John mentioned earlier, a police officer, adding a full-time fire medic, and also additional database administrator, and some other personnel changes. Program reduction-wise, we're looking at reducing some consulting and contractual services in IT. Our total expenses are going up 6%. The transfer in is transferring money from our recplex into general government for ball field maintenance and also maintenance of landscaping around the recplex and the iceplex buildings. And as you can see in the bottom, we have a net gain and loss. We have balanced budgets, we have 0. As I mentioned before, the key new programs are personnel additions, including a police officer, a fire medic, and a database administrator. So I'll go a little bit more detail in terms of our operating expenditures. That was the top section of that previous slide. Here's our sources of revenue. Property tax is the biggest source of revenue in our operating general government fund. It accounts for 46% of our source of revenue in that area. Our next biggest category is intergovernmental. Intergovernmental is 18% of the revenue. The majority of this, over 50%, is shared revenue from the state, and about 40% is the road grant from the state also. License and permits accounts for 12% of our revenue for the general operating. This is mainly building permits, which accounts for over 70%. We also have zoning permits for 19%. We have a record maintenance fee, which is a fee that the assessing department charges to maintain new records. That's about 6%. And other things in that category includes liquor licenses, bartender licenses, and dog licenses. Other taxes account for 8%. 8% includes our mobile home taxes, the utility tax that our water utility pays to our general government of a little over $500,000, and it also includes property tax penalty and hotel and motel taxes. Again, at 8%, we have public charges for services. The biggest expense or revenue in that category is our rescue. Charging for the rescue to provide service of $300,000. And then also engineering department charges out to developments of $150,000. We also have street lighting in this area. And we have a new fee that we're charging IT department services, basically to developments, to do mapping type services for them. Other is another 8%, and that includes our municipal court revenue, interest income, our assessing contracts with other communities, tower leases, and our school liaison officer. So those three that I just spoke about account for our 8% each, for a total of 24% of the revenues for this fund. Then we have new programs, which I talked about before, the police officer, the fire medic, and also the database administrator, which when looked at individually is very small. It rounds to 0%. How did these revenue sources actually change from what our budget was for 2007 versus 2008? Property tax went up, it's mainly growth, but a resident that owns an average home valued at $270,000 will also be paying more village taxes. That's $47 more per year, which is just under $4 per month to help fund the additions of the positions we talked about earlier, a police officer, a fire medic, and a database administrator. Intergovernmental actually decreased around $17,000, and this is mainly due to reduction in exempt computer aid. The state pays us for computers. They look at the inventory of computers in all the businesses, and the values actually decreased, so therefore we're getting less money from the state in terms of that category, which is mainly why this category has decreased. Licenses and permits is also decreasing, and looking conservatively at building for next year in terms of the assessing property record maintenance fee, reducing about $37,000. Other taxes are